here early. Yes, hopefully your connection is okay. So you must have been already waiting, huh? I don't know if you're still here, but yeah, I see your message. So you were here early. And sorry, I am actually late. Apologies for that. But yes, to everyone who's going to be watching after the fact, thank you so much for checking this reading out. I hope you enjoy it. It serves you well. Just getting organized. I already actually have a couple of cards out. Okay, they did fly out when I was picking up the Beyond Lemuria deck. So I'm going to get into that as well. But it's funny because of this card that I was seeing, I did want to pull this card out from the tarot. And funny enough, it was only behind the first two cards that were on top of the deck. So definitely meant to be. But this card is what I kept seeing. So we're going to get into that. Okay, so I don't know if anyone is seeing this, but I think I'm going to just get into the message because, as I say, I'm very aware that I am currently late. Okay, so guys, as I mentioned, as you see from the title, right, the energy coming through today very strongly is that of the Celestial Weaver, which is this card right here, this energy here. Okay, so as you can see, there is quite an interesting tapestry behind this individual here, right? But it's that of her own design, her own making, right? She is in the energy of the creatrix. And so she is seemingly taking something and making nothing, taking nothing and making something out of it, right? But it's nothing, right? Oh my gosh, can I get my words out? It's not that it's nothing. It may seem that way, that she's producing something out of nothing, but she's not, okay? What she's actually tapping into is her own latent potential. She's utilizing her own energy, her own abilities, okay? And so that's the energy here, right? This is what's being put forward to us today, right? I kept seeing this card all day. This energy of the Celestial Weaver kept coming through. And it's coming through as a reminder that this is the energy that we embody, okay? This is the space that we inhabit, especially now, given the fact that more and more the collective is waking up to their ability as a divine being to co-create, to create, right? And the fact that we do have such a strong impact on our physical reality. So that's why this theme, this energy is so prevalent right now, because there is that remembrance that, oh, we are co creating every single day. We can do it from a conscious place or we can do it unconsciously, right? And so this is the point of this being brought forward to our awareness, is that every single moment we get to choose. Okay, so if something doesn't feel aligned, if it doesn't feel like it's in agreement with our spirit, okay, then we have an opportunity to take a look at that and see what alternatives there are, or if there's another way of doing things, if there's a different action or decision we can come to, right, that we can take. So that's what I'm getting so far. Okay, hey guys, welcome in. So we're just starting this collective message, okay? So the theme that's been coming through very strongly today for the collective is that of the Celestial Weaver, okay? So knowing that you are more influential over your reality than perhaps you realized, okay? That you are shaping it every single day with your beliefs, your actions, your words, your thoughts, your energy, right? You're very influential. And so now, especially those who have been going through some major activations at this time, been going through a bit of an initiatory process, a purging, a healing, dark night of the soul, rite of passage, okay? This is ultimately the space that you're being brought to. I feel like the halls of a mentee is very significant here, okay? So you may feel as though you're actually connecting and working with the universe in a very deep and profound way, right? Almost like you're like gaining the secrets of how things actually work, right? How the universe actually operates, right? So it's almost like a deeper, as you get a deeper understanding of your divine nature and how you operate, you're better understanding how the universe itself operates, right? Especially on a quantum level. So that could even be a line of study that you're going into, right? Diving more into the quantum mechanics of things, right? So very interesting. Yeah, because at one time, but that Four of Cups, You was feeling a lot of discontentment, right? You was feeling as though certain situations or areas of your life really wasn't flowing. It wasn't in agreement with your spirit, your heart. You just felt like it wasn't really what you wanted, or it wasn't serving you in some way. For whatever reason, there was discontentment here, okay? Hey, welcome in. But it's the discontentment that allowed you to see what is working for you and what isn't, okay? Knowing and accepting that, okay, I am not happy with this, or this doesn't fulfill me, this doesn't feel aligned for me. So, what is going on here, right? What do I need to do? What do I need to look at? How do I change this, right? How do I transform the situation? How can I improve things for myself? How can I feel more at peace, more contented, more joyful, whatever the case may be, right? So, it's by recognizing and admitting that something was not quite in alignment that kind of triggered things here, okay? Yeah, exactly. Page of Pentacles energy. So you may have come into a space where you're recognizing, okay, well, I have all this potential. I recognize the fact that, my energy is this powerful, but I need to really consciously think about the seeds that I'm planting, right? And where I plant it. So you are becoming more and more mindful of your energy and where you invest it, okay? So even if you feel like you've recently had to leave certain situations, circumstances, people, places, things behind, you're not going with nothing, okay? So I feel like where you plant your seeds now is going to be indicative of the reality you are going to help shape moving forward, okay? And that's why, honestly, I can't stress how significant this is, the celestial weaver, okay? It is literally the embodiment of your divinity here in the physical, okay? Recognizing that you are the anchor, you are the bridge, you are the conduit, you are the medium, okay? You are the one that's helping to shape this reality as we know it. We all are. We all are actively doing that every single day. So the more that you keep that in mind, right, and recognize the fact that you have the capacity to shape things, to change things, to transform things, okay? It means you're going to be very mindful again of what you do with that knowledge, right? And how you apply it. So this is very interesting. Now, before I get more into the tarot, I do want to show you the two cards that came out from the Beyond Lumeria deck, okay? The first one that came out was number 4, solar plexus chakra, radiant illumination. And it's funny because the next card is number 5. These cards are not in order. I've used them many times, okay? So it's interesting that they came out in this order. So there is a flow that's happening right now, okay? There is major activations that are still unfolding, that are still taking place for the collective. So when it comes to the solar plexus, that is that sense of I amness. Again, the bridge between the physical and the identification of the self in physical form, the ego, right? And also the divine self, right? The heavenly self, the eternal self, right? That is not confined to the parameters of the 3D, right? That has the ability to roam across dimensions, time, space, right? Planes of existence. So there is definitely a major activation taking place within the solar plexus, okay? And it is triggering that sense of I amness, right? Which is enabling you to shift your mindset, your mentality when it comes to how influential again and how much you can affect your reality, okay? And next we have higher heart. Sorry. Oh, interesting. I said higher heart. Wow, that's not what I meant to say. Heart chakra, unfurling back to love. I was thinking of that card from the Gateway Oracle, but it's connected anyway, right? So we have the heart chakra energy here. And that's all to do with coming back to one's soul, right? Making decisions from a soulful place, from the heart place, right? Heart center. Recognizing, like, okay, I may have chose this in the past for this reason, but given the awareness I have now, given the fact I'm standing firm in the knowledge that I am this divine being, that I have a very strong impact and influence over my reality, and that every facet does play a role in shaping that, I'm going to actively choose to make decisions, to take actions that align with me on a heart level, on a soul level, right? So it's almost like this pledge that you may be making, right? It's like, the past is the past, right? I can understand why I was operating from fear. I can understand why I was operating from doubt, scarcity, survival, right? Because the environment I was in, the people I was around, the upbringing I had, that was what I knew. However, I do know an alternative now. I know now from having tapped into this energy and having this shift of consciousness that that isn't all there is, right? So why am I going to resign myself to that way of looking at things and that way of operating in the world when I don't need to? It doesn't have to be that way. So I consciously choose to make decisions from the heart space, right? Not from a place of scarcity, lack, desperation, fear, but from joy, happiness, love, peace, from a vision, from alignment, right? From hope. That's the game changer right there. Okay. So these two energy centers are being activated simultaneously, right? And they go hand in hand, right? So this is like speaking on the spirit and speaking on the soul. They are interwoven, interconnected, right? Think about like the divine feminine and divine masculine principle. Divine masculine being the spirit, right? The divine feminine being the heart, soul and spirit and soul, right? So when you are aligned and balanced to that extent and you make an informed decision from that place, you move from intention from that place, it's going to have a very profound impact on your reality. You'll be surprised at how you can transform certain situations in your life, right? But that's what the celestial weaver does, right? This is someone who has that balance, that understanding, that has that basis to work from. And instead of consigning themselves or resigning themselves to a specific lived experience and say, oh, well, this is just how life is, they can sit there, look at it for what it is, and say, actually, I've had that experience, but who's to say I have to continue it? If it doesn't serve me, if it served its purpose, I can put that to rest. Let me look at this timeline over here, right? Almost see it as, like Minority Report, right? For those who have seen that film with Tom Cruise. When he's like panning in and out of like the precog's memories, their premonitions of things that haven't actually happened yet, at least from that point in time, right? And he's sort of, expanding the time frame, and he's, switching like from one point to another, right? It's giving that, but with timelines, not just one specific string of events, right? But multiple. That's the level we're talking about. And some of you guys are actually starting to do this now. Maybe you're not doing it, while you're awake and walking around, but it's possible that you may already be doing this in the dream state, right? That your spirit, your soul may be sitting there looking at these different possibilities, right? Because you've got to remember, everything's accounted for. So you're looking at all these possible timelines, right? All these potential timelines that you can explore. And you're like, okay, well, this one is more aligned with my vision than this one, or this one's going to afford me the experiences I need to be able to. You see what I mean? That's what I'm getting with this energy here. This is why I just been seeing it all day in my mind's eye, right? Because I feel like that is something that a portion of the collective is starting to tap into. I know this could sound very far-fetched for some, okay? But those who are literally at that point, you'll understand what I mean. Right? It literally does become that, right? Where you can start actually actively choosing certain timelines, right? That are aligned with the certain experiences that you want to have or you feel like you need to have. Because again, it's not just your conscious self, right? It's not just the ego that's choosing. It's your soul, it's your spirit that's also choosing, right? Because your soul, your spirit has a higher awareness of what experiences are going to be of most benefit to you. It's not just about what's going to be the most enjoyable, right, in the moment. It's what's going to be of the most benefit to you, right? What is actually going to aid you? What's going to give you the insight, the knowledge, the experience, the awareness, the growth that is required, right? If you set out with the intention of, I want to expand, I want to grow, I want to heal, I want to become whole and unified, right? I want to become embodied, that's the experiences it's going to choose, right? Not, oh, I want the experience that's going to be the easiest, right? Easiest doesn't equate growth, right? So that's what I mean here, right? But it's having that panned out, you know, panned out perspective on, okay, yeah, this is what it is. This is what's going to be beneficial. This is what we need to choose, because that's going to get us where we need to be, right? That's going to afford us the experiences that's going to serve us best across the board. So this is major, okay? This is major. So gone are the days where you felt like you were sleepwalking your way through life, right? Gone are those days. Now you are very conscious with what you're choosing, okay? Yeah. So this is very significant. I do feel like as well, the more you recognize this ability, right, which we all inherently have, it's just whether or not we're aware of it or not. That's all it comes down to. But the more we tap into that, the more we exercise that ability, the more you're going to be able to like fine tune this, right? Because there is a lot of nuance involved with this as well, you know? Because like I say, if you look at it from a very like black and white, very sort of subjective view, then you're going to miss out on some of the things that you could potentially experience that is going to serve you in the long run, you know? So that's where having that sort of objective bird's eye view is going to be really important, you know? Let me just get rid of this troll. Okay. No. Man. I hit the wrong person. How annoying. I don't know how to undo it. Crap. No. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, Tobias. I was not meant to do that. Hang on. Let me see if I can quickly... Oh, man. I don't know if I can quickly unfilter his message. That's so annoying. One sec, guys. So sorry about that. I was trying to filter a troll and I filtered the wrong person. Oh, I might have to go in the settings to do that. That's so annoying. Okay. 1 second. If I can't do it now, then I'll have to do it afterwards, but man. I feel really bad. I really didn't want to do that. Yeah, I wish I had a way to do it on here, but it doesn't look like I can. All right, I can. I've done it. I've done it. Okay. Okay, you should be okay now. My goodness. Oh, sorry guys. I just wanted to sort that out because, yeah, I did not want to leave him muted. Because that was the wrong person. Sorry about that. Anyway, so that's what I'm getting so far, okay? So your ability to sort of, like I say, not just jump timelines, right? But consciously choose. Yeah, I've made you a mod as well, Tobias, so yeah, that way it should be less of an issue. So sorry about that. All right, so let me see. Yeah, so sorry. Ugh. But anyway, let's move forward. So, very interesting. So, this isn't just about aligning with your divine nature, right? And embodying it, right? You are integrating it to the point where you're actually operating from that space, right? Like I say, like consciously choosing the timelines, the experiences that's going to serve your intentions best, right? Like your objective, your goal, right? Especially if you're aware of, some of the reasons why you chose to incarnate in this time as well. There may be a specific mission statement or a series of mission statements, right? And so it's like, because you're aware of that, you're actively choosing the timelines that align with that will help facilitate that um mission, right? Whatever the case may be. All right, tell me more about this energy. Yeah, the Wheel of Fortune. This is what I mean, right? Destiny unfolding, a shift in circumstances, right? This changes the game massively, right? You're easy to be it's easy for people to be shunted around when they're not aware that they have this quality about their nature, right? When you think all you are is flesh and bone, it's easy for you to succumb to psychological manipulation, spiritual warfare, right? Things of that nature. But then when you understand that this is actually what you are, then it becomes a whole different ball game, right? So people can no longer lord over you and make you feel powerless in the way that perhaps you felt in the past, right? And that's something that slowly the collective is waking up to, right? That you're not just a bystander, you're not just a victim, you're not a prisoner, right, of this matrix. Like, you can be an active participant. Like, you can actually, right, take the keys back and let yourself out. You have that ability, right? So, and then, like I say, perception plays a big role in this. You can see this as a prison and that you're stuck in it, or you can see it as a mystery school, that is leading you down a rite of passage where you have to learn through direct lived experience, right? Because you think about all of the sort of fantasy films and things of that nature, where the protagonists, they always have this sort of rite of passage, right? And it's never easy. It's always brutal, situations that will make or break you. It's kind of like that, right? It's very similar to how life actually is, you know? It's not to say it's easy, but if you have the will, if you have the insight, if you have the willingness, and you have the courage, oh yeah, it becomes a completely different playing field, right? Tell me more. This is what I mean, right? The jailer, the devil, right? People see the devil card and fear it because of what it represents, right? I honestly feel like what people fear more is that feeling of being confined, right? Rather than feeling like they're being oppressed, right? It sounds weird, I know, but honestly, that's what I feel like it is. If people will be more comfortable under the illusion that they have some freedom, right? Rather than feeling as though they are actually, you know, boxed in. Even if that freedom is actually oppression, right? But the thing is, when liberation is offered, right? When you understand that, oh, you have the capacity, you have the ability to free yourself. I honestly feel like that's the thing people fear the most. Like, even more than that is the prospect of having to take back one's autonomy, having to be sovereign, having to be completely responsible for your own decision making, right? Having to rely on your ability to choose for yourself, to trust yourself enough to do that, right? Like, basically, the space we're in now, you can't rely on the tried and tested. You can't rely on what came before in a lot of ways because we're in uncharted territory. We know that some of the systems that have been in place for the longest time, ways of operating, the way our society, our civilization has functioned is defective in a lot of ways. So in order to combat that, you have to be willing to try a different approach. You have to implement something new, something different. And that is terrifying because no one wants to be the first one to do it and for it to go wrong, and have to deal with the I told you so, or the fear of failing and being seen as a failure because they had the goal, the audacity, right, to be the first to try. Because you've got to think, right, that herd mentality has been holding us back in a lot of ways, right? And the Celestial Weaver is not one of a herd mentality. This is someone who is stepping forward and choosing to create, regardless if anyone sees the vision or not. She doesn't need an audience, doesn't matter about that, right? She's just doing her part. She's not responsible for the whole, for the sum, right? But she's doing her part, and that's the thing. So it's not even just about like, oh, are we comfortable in this cage, or are we okay with a full sense of freedom, that is actually linked to oppression and tyranny, right? It goes beyond that at this point. That is something we have been grappling with, but now it comes down to this. Will you choose your autonomy? Right? People say they want freedom. Do you really want it? Because true freedom means being completely sovereign to the point where, like I say, only you are responsible for your decision making. You are responsible for your choices. You have to take accountability of how things play out, right? Play out, sorry. Okay? So that's the thing, And a lot of people, I'll be honest with you, there's still a lot of people in the collective that don't want that responsibility. They don't want the responsibility over their own lives. It's too scary. They'd rather hand it over to an external power, whether that is governments, corporations, But this is what it requires. This is what it actually requires. If you want to see a change of circumstance, if you want to see a different way of life that is accomplishable, that can be achieved, right? That is actually harmonious, balanced, fair, that is one where people actually can thrive, People are not feeling as though they are ruled by injustice and corruption. Like, it requires you to step forward in this energy. It does, especially if you have this awareness and this is where you're operating from now. Hey guys, welcome in. Yeah, I had an accident, but I'm okay. I've only actually got 4 days left and then this thing comes off anyway. So I'm quite happy about that. Yeah, look at this, judgment, right? So this is the call. This is the wake-up call, right? You have a choice. You can remain under the thumb, right? You can remain under the thumb of the oppressive system that we've all been living under. Or you can choose true liberation and step forward as this embodied sovereign being that is literally not just co-creating, but actively choosing timelines, right? That are viewing it. I mean, it's so interesting because, yeah, this is something that you do, not from, again, like I say, how do I explain this? It's hard to really put it in words, right? It's not something you do in the physical, right? So it's not like you sit there and you're physically touching something. Like, there is a state of consciousness you enter in, like entering the void state, right? So like you are, if you're manifesting, you're envisioning, you're working with the cosmic forces at play, right? You're working with your own latent potential. You're occupying the 4D at that point, okay? That's where you're able to choose timelines, right? So you are operating from a higher dimension. You are operating from a different state of being, right? A state of consciousness. but it is available to you. That's what you need to know. So even if you haven't done this prior to this, you're hearing this because this is what is available to you now. Okay? But it's up to you whether or not you want to step into that space, right? But the call is there, right? So it's up to you. And again, you see those angel wings as well. You see how she's being liberated. So I'm telling you. So especially for the solar plexus and the heart chakra to come up, that's very significant. You know, that is a very intense activation to let you know, like, oh, you are online, but not just online. You are integrating, right? So it's like your soul is it's like your soul and your spirit is coming to the forefront now, right? But in the physical. So you may even find that people will start to notice your aura more and more. Even if they can't physically see it, it's like they can sense this energy on you, right? Because they can see that you're not just, this vessel walking around, right? Like it's more than that, like your energy is very, very visible, but your spirit is very visible. You may even find that sometimes you will say or do things and you're like, whoa, like, why did that sound so different to normal? Like the way I would express that, or why is my voice like so much more powerful in that moment, right? And that's because your spirit is really coming through in that moment. It's not that it's not you or it doesn't sound like you, but you just may feel like there's a lot more power in what you're being, what you're saying, or, there's just some kind of decisive action that you take and you're like, normally I would have been second guessing that, or I've been weighing it up, like, do I want to do that? Should I do that? Right? Instead of just being like, nope, this is what I'm doing. This is where we need to go. This is where we're going. This is what's happening, So you may have moments like that where you kind of surprise yourself when you're like, wow, how was I so assertive in a situation where I would be scared or I would be doubtful? How is it that I was able to advocate for myself in such a way that I would have really struggled with in the past? Things like that. That would be a sign of this activation and integration, right? So this is really cool. But hopefully you guys are following me. I know I'm going really deep here with these concepts, right? And like I say, some people are going to have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, and that's fine. But for those who it's for, I think you'll understand, right? But I'm telling you, there is a reason you're hearing this, because a lot of you guys are like that first wave, that's being called to make a decision here, especially because you have been actively choosing expansion, in whatever shape or form. You've been actively choosing to ascend, and that is by, like I say, not only going through these like life lessons, right, that helps you to evolve on a conscious level, but also your spirit's evolution, right, and the integration of the two, right, the merging of the two. So because you've been on that journey, it was inevitable that this is where you were going to be led, right? So it's up to you whether or not like this is something you're ready to truly embody now, so it's not about being a human being and having divinity. I think that's where the messaging has got twisted, right? I honestly feel like at the moment, a lot of the time, the way people express this, especially in the spiritual community, is like you're a human being with a spirit, or you just happen to have this divine aspect that's almost like separate to you. But it's not. It is you. It's just a different aspect of yourself, right? But it's all you. They're all parts of the same whole. So it's not that, oh, you're suddenly becoming a divine being. You always were. It's just you're integrating that in a more conscious way, right? So instead of feeling like there's a disconnect or there's just a bit of a tether between, your divine eternal self and, your conscious physical self, that is here for a period of time, it's like the two are truly being enmeshed, right? So it's not like, oh, This is my human self. This is my divine self. It's like, I am. You know, literally this energy here. It's like it's not one or the other at any time. It's both or at all times, right? It's both at all times. So that's it, right? That's what I feel like part of this integration is helping to bridge the understanding of, no aspect of yourself is separate or is just, a background part of yourself that's kind of loosely connected. No, it's all present, it's all there. It's just you're, like I say, you're integrating that awareness and bridging the gaps where they've been, right? And again, it's from a lack of understanding, I think. That's the only thing that's created any kind of separation within yourself, or rather fragmentation, right? But that's on a psychological level, in the psyche, not in terms of energy, right? Like there may be, sure, there could be like, I don't know, like soul fragments that you're needing to call back into your auric field. But what I mean is that your spirit wasn't elsewhere, right? Like even if you go astral traveling, it's not like it's never connected to you. It's always connected to you. You know, it's not like there was ever like real separation there. Hope that makes sense, right? Because like I say, it can be a bit awkward to explain, but the fragmentation was in the psyche, not in terms of whether or not these parts are actually interconnected. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm getting at. But this understanding is changing, right? So you're aware, like, oh yeah, these parts are always a part of me at all times. Even if, say, my spirit decides to go on a little mission or go for a wander, right, in the astral, I'm still very much connected. I'm still very much tethered. And that could be even why you may pick up on certain cues, or you may get a sudden flash of inspiration or some insight. You may get some knowledge, right? That your soul has picked up, your spirit has picked up from wherever it's wandered off to, right? But again, you're always tethered to that. Always. I know what I was trying to say in the beginning. It's not an extension of you. It is you, right? That's what I was trying to say. There we go. Got the words. Thank you. So this is it, right? Yeah, you have the Two of Wands. The precipice, the crossroads, right? Yeah, this is interesting. So this is like being in the ethers and seeing sort of where you've come from, right? And then a pathway that's being presented to you, right? Potential pathway, should I say? Because again, you can choose which one actually forms in front of you, right? But there's that potential pathway. So you're at the door now, right? And again, that's why I feel like the halls of Amenti are significant here, right? That's what I'm getting with this Two of Wands. So it's like you're being brought into this, metaphysical space where different timelines are available and you get to choose, right? But I honestly feel that you just want to be conscious with what energy you're stepping forward in, because it will influence your choices, right? Depending on your mental state, your emotional state, your energy, right, at the time, it's going to influence what you feel you need at that time, okay? So just something to be aware of. Yeah, Six of Swords, especially for those who have been leaving behind some very turbulent circumstances, right? Turbulent experiences, cycles, maybe even just coming out of a more maybe coming out of a heavier sort of mindset or mentality or perception of things, right? It's not always about just what you're actually experiencing in the world, but what you've been experiencing in the mind. The mind is playing a big role here, okay? So by coming out of this more sort of heavy, limiting, restricting, dark, gloomy mindset and coming more into an expansive one, right? Which is infinitely more hopeful and light. If you step forward with that energy, it's going to open up a whole realm of infinite possibility, right? But if you step forward through this portal, carrying forward the energy of what you're leaving behind, and going into it with that mindset, then guess what? This becomes a lot more limited, right? So I can't stress how influential we are when it comes to the possibilities, right? The limits only exist as far as your consciousness does, right? As far as your mindset permits, your perception allows, right? So, yeah, exactly. Look, the magician. It's in your hands, my friend. Okay, it's in your hands. The ball is in your court, right? So, what will you do with this sacred fire, right? This solar plexus energy, the I amness, right? The unified self, right? Radius, it says even on the card, radiant illumination, like we see here, right? So what will you do with it? How will you create with this sacred fire? What will you create? What will you align with? What will you experience, right? What will you choose? So, very interesting. Anything else in terms of this energy? Yeah, the Hanged Man. So that was it, right? There was a circumstance that required you to release a lot, right? There may have been one particular thing that was very difficult for you to let go of, right? But you did. Or there could have been a series of things that you had to feel like you had to give up, right? Sacrifices were made in order for you to obtain this level of insight, right? To have the awareness you have now. But it is changing things for the better, you know? And again, it's like what I was going back to, you know, with the analogy that I gave earlier, like no one said this was going to be easy, right? This whole life experience, this journey that you're on is a rite of passage, right? It does come with some challenges. It does come with loss, right? It does come with some battles and struggles, right? But that's not the sum of the experience. That's not the sum of the journey, right? It does come with a lot of meaning and understanding and expansion, like I say, growth, personal growth. It affords you some really important, not only like life skills, but character traits as well that are being cultivated within you. Because it's like I've said before, like, how do you know how courageous you are if you've never felt that you've been in a situation where you had to be brave? You know, how will you know how prone you are to growth if you've never had to grow through something? You know, how will you know how strong your healing capabilities are if you've never had to heal anything? You know, that's the point, right? Like, how do you cultivate these traits, qualities, abilities if they're never in use, right? So that's the point. And that's what you're realizing, that all of these experiences have afforded you the ability to truly step into the energy of the celestial weaver. It's all been part of it, right? It's like all roads have been leading to this sort of converging point, right? So it's very interesting. I'm getting like the spider web, right? I'm getting that as well here. Like, it's like these different twists and turns, these detours that you've taken on, these straight paths, all of it played a role in leading you to this point here. So it almost feels like even if you've taken a different path and at certain points, eventually you were going to get to this point because of the choices overall that you're making. And like I say, your soul chose this, right? Your spirit chose this on some level. You know? It wanted you to have this understanding on a conscious level. It wanted you to be able to make choices from this very conscious and very intentional place, right? So that's interesting. This could be something that your soul feels like you need to have because you've yet had an opportunity to experience this, right? Not in the tangible. Especially if you believe in reincarnation, if you feel like you've had past incarnations here, I don't think you've experienced this before. So your soul wanted you to have this experience. Maybe you didn't get the chance, right? Or maybe this was something that wasn't brought to your awareness at that time. So, yeah, I'm telling you, the Phoenix, right? this energy of rising, right? It's coming through very strong. I don't think I've got, yeah, I have got it here still. Look at this, right? You see the outstretched wings, and even her arms here are outstretched, right? That liberation, that freedom, the ability to choose, right? Judgment, the call, answering the call, right? The celestial weaver stepping into your sovereignty, embodying, integrating, right? So no longer feeling like, oh, sometimes I can tap into my higher self. It's like, no, you're always walking around as your higher self, as well as your conscious self, like your ego. All these different facets at all times. You're all of them at all times, you know. That's the difference. Before it's like, oh, I'm really tapping into my shadow today. Oh, I'm really tapping into my inner child today. Oh, I'm really tapping into my higher self today. No, from this point, once this process is done, like once this activation has completed, once you have truly stepped into this frequency, into this embodiment, right? And unified these different facets of self, you will be all of them at all times. That's what I mean. That's what the unification process is affording you with the ability to show up as a unified being at all times. So even though you may lean into these different aspects, right, given the circumstance, right, you're showing up as all those different facets. It's not like, you know, swapping between them like moods. You know what I mean? And it can be hard to really fully understand that when you haven't experienced that yet, but you will, okay? And it'll make more sense, and you'll notice the difference between, you know, being fractured, you know, like my wrist here, and going between these different facets to being whole and unified and always showing up as all things at all times, you know. Like, that is a major difference, and you will feel it, right? From that space, you're not going to be questioning your capability, your divinity, your power. You know, you're not going to be questioning any of that. That's when you're going to really get a glimpse as to, oh, okay. So this is how, and this is why people say that we are one with Source. We are an expression of Source. We've come from Source light, right? Because you are part of it, right? So the things that you would associate with Source and how Source would exist, right? You'll have like a glimpse of that by operating in that way, right? So that's what I mean. It's like, it's hard to really put it in words, because I'm not saying that you'll be exactly like Source, right? Because it's hard to be all things at all times, right? Like the sum of everything that ever has been and will be, right? That's too much for our brains, right? That's a lot. And we're not being asked to operate from that space. It would be very difficult to navigate through life like that, right? But I just mean that instead of trying to operate from that level, which is too much, just operating as a whole and unified being to that extent would give you an indication of what that is like. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm getting. But this is it, okay? So this is the sign of some kind of completion when it comes to a very powerful, very intense, very primordial alchemical process. Okay, that's why we have the phoenix rising from the ashes, and you see like the white light here, and then all the reds, right? The fiery red, that sacred fire, right? Radiant illumination, right? Which we have here, same colors here with the judgment card, right? Heeding the call, rising to the occasion, right? Burning through the chains that bind, same energies here, colors here, right? But all of this is necessary, even the devil, right? Because if you think about the alchemical process, right, this represents the base, right? The darkness. This represents the purification process, the judgment, okay, which trumps the devil energy. The process of like purifying, clearing, burning, stripping away all of the unnecessary materials, right? Compounds. And then what you're left with is the product, okay, is that gold that you're looking for, okay, i.e. the self-actualized being, you know, the unified self. And we have that here with the white and the red. The red represents the self-actualized person, right? That is like the gold, essentially, right? So I think it's very, very significant that we have all three right here. Like, this is a perfect depiction of this process, right? Literally, the devil, judgment, and the phoenix, right? That is the alchemical process in a nutshell. Oh, let me do it the other way around for the sake of the camera. There we go. There you go. That is the alchemical process in a nutshell. Right? So, the devil, followed by judgment, and then the phoenix. Yeah. So, again, what comes out of the process, right, is the whole self, right? The ashes is just the residual of what you've left behind, right? Of what no longer serves. That's gone. Okay? So this is a very, very powerful process, you know, and I've tried my best to explain it as simply as I can, but it's very difficult to do so, right? But I think you get my meaning. But this is, yeah, it is what it is, right? And then look at that. Out of the process, what comes through the other side in the tangible? The Queen of Pentacles, okay? See how she's still carrying that sacred fire, okay? Solar plexus energy right here. So even though she's integrated and she's embodied, she's still showing up in the physical, right? She's still, you know, she's still interacting with the physical world. She's not detached from it. She's very much enmeshed in it, but she's carrying that sacred fire, right? This phoenix rising energy. And that's what I mean. This is the embodiment of all facets of self, right? She's literally showing up as a divine being and moving as such, right? And allowing that to influence everything that she does in the physical. So this is actually a very good representation of what I mean by that. Is in this case, the Queen of Pentacles energy, right? She's come out the other side of this process. She has her sacred fire. And she knows how to use it. She knows how to wield it, okay? And she knows what she wants to infuse that into, right? And of course, that puts her in a very powerful and a very abundant energy. Like, there's nothing she can't accomplish with this, you know? So it's only a matter of time before she's going to evolve into the King of Pentacles, where she has mastered her physical paradigm, right? And then from that point, you're only one step away from the Emperor, Empress, you know, which is full self-mastery, you know, and knowing exactly how to work with the elements in any situation, you know, which approach would serve you best. So it's very powerful. Yeah, look at this. I'm telling you, the Lovers, right? That masculine, I'm telling you, this feels like, again, you see that fire? That's what I'm talking about, right? It's like that King of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles energy. So this is going to put you in a very strong position of self-mastery, especially knowing how to actually work with things in a tangible way in the physical, right? Wow. So obviously this is a big mission statement for some of you guys, okay? You wanted to master and overcome the confines of the tangible reality, right? It's like a lot of souls probably look at Earth and like, it's ghetto as hell over there. I'm not going back. Like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to have to go through this lesson, or I don't want to have that experience, you know? That is difficult. It's almost like, I don't know if you've seen the new Predator movie, right? And it's like a young Predator, and he's trying to, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how perfect this is, right? He's trying to prove himself to his clan, more so to his father, right? that he is this warrior, right? And he is strong enough, right, to be part of the clan. But unfortunately, it didn't go well. I won't spoil it too much, but he still wants to prove this to himself, right? It's like a rite of passage that he needs to do for himself. So instead of choosing a planet that's more manageable, like his brother initially suggested, like, oh, there's some creatures there you should be able to manage, da, 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 this is where I'm going to send you. He's like, nope, I'm going there. And it's like the worst planet possible with one of the, like, most challenging monsters to deal with, one of the most destructive monsters. It's like, no one's been able to defeat that. Why would you go there, But he's like, that's exactly where I need to go, because I need to do this for myself. I need to prove this to myself. I need to earn my place. I need to have this experience, But what that actually afforded him, right, by going there, is a whole bunch of other experiences, completely different perspectives, right? Like he learned something more important than just proving how powerful he was, right? He learned the importance of like unity, connection, friendship, okay? That there are many different ways to form solutions, right? It's not always one approach that's going to work. So he actually gained so much more than he even thought he would by going there. And that's kind of the energy I've got here, It's like your soul may have thought that, okay, I'm going to come here because I know it's going to afford me this understanding, these lessons, right? And, I'm going to evolve even further. But what it's actually afforded you is so much more than perhaps even your soul knew in that moment, right? That's possible, okay? Because that's the thing. We often talk about the soul and the spirit like it knows all things at all times, right? You got to remember that part of yourself can access any timeline at any time, right? But that doesn't mean it is aware of everything at all times. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. So I think that this experience is affording you to develop and cultivate so much more than perhaps you even knew that you would. Like the richness that you're getting out of having this lived experience, you can't put a price on it. You really can't, So I know obviously for some people they'll be like, what do you mean? But one day you'll understand what I mean, okay? Like you'll know what I mean. So yeah, this is kind of the energy, right? Like you're gaining so much more out of it. But if you haven't seen that film, right, the new Predator movie, go check that out, okay? Because it's really good. It's very different from the other movies. Like I say, it's got such a stronger emphasis on like connection, But it's really good and it's definitely relevant to what we're discussing here. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check that out, okay? Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but yeah, it's very, very significant. Look at this, 8 of Wands. 8 of Wands, this is what I mean, right? So a lot is shifting, a lot is happening right now, And I do, again, you feel like you're ready to pounce, you're ready to show up in this new way, right? To be this whole embodied, unified being. And you are, to be fair, right? But what I will say is don't force the unfolding of this process. Let it happen as is. Okay? Let it happen as is, right? Because again, there may be a little bit of impulsive energy coming through because you're feeling this activation strongly. Like you feel like your solar plexus is expanding in a major way. And like I say, your auric field could be shifting as well. I've been getting that in recent messages as well, to the point where your auric field could have actually grown. It could have actually got stronger, more vibrant, or more energized. But just make sure you don't overdo it, okay? And try and like force things to happen quicker, essentially. Okay, just let it unfold as it needs to. Yeah. And again, this is why I mentioned that movie, okay? Because the heart, right? Coming back to the heart is really key. Because this is the kind of underlying message a lot of these movies have, right? Is that love is definitely the most powerful force in existence, right? Divine love, pure love, as it really is. not the distorted kind, but genuine love, right? When you think of like source frequency, yeah, it can move mountains, right? It's unreal. Like, this is a core principle of being able to move in the energy of a celestial weaver, right? It is literally, quite literally, at the heart of it, you know? So, but look, with the Emperor here, you remember what I was saying before? We saw the lovers, and I was getting that King of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles energy. Now we have the Emperor showing up with that Eight of Wands. Don't force it. You are going to show up in Emperor energy regardless, right? Because this is the journey and trajectory you're on, right? Is that of self-mastery to this extent. So you don't have to wonder how I'm going to get there, when I'm going to get there, how is it going to look in my life, you know, how are things going to shift. Just know it's going to happen, okay? But it needs to unfold in the right time, in the right way, so that when you are in that position, you know that basically this is solidified, right? Because you got to remember, this is fresh energy. You're going through this process as we speak right now, right? You're just tapping into the energies of the celestial weaver. So this isn't anchored in yet. You haven't fully grounded this energy or this experience yet, right? Even if you've already been tapping into this. So that's why you need to give it time and allow it to happen naturally, so that by the time you are truly entering this energy and position, right, in the context of this message, by the way, I'm not saying you're not showing up as an emperor already in various areas of your life, but I mean in terms of what we're discussing here, right, this level of self-mastery, you know, mastery over the physical, yeah, like, you got to give it time, because right now there is a lot of alchemy taking place, right? Imagine like a saucepan and all of the things you're putting in it, right? Like, that's kind of what's happening right now. You've got a lot going on, and it's hitting you on all levels. So you got to give it the time that it needs, right? You can't rush the process. Like, you're not going to rush a really good meal, you know, especially when you've sourced really high quality ingredients. You know, you're making a really delicious dish. You're not gonna like rush it and ruin it, you know what I mean? So same thing with this, right? Let it unfold as it needs to in its proper timing. But if you do that, look at that heart chakra, right? Infinite well, okay? Divine love pouring out of it, being poured into it, you know? Infinite well. So beautiful. And look at that, the justice. And that's what will balance everything out accordingly. So guys, that's essentially the message, okay? Like I say, I know this one was very deep, very metaphysical. Yeah, you'll know if this is for you. It'll make sense to you, right? You'll feel that. You'll know that this correlates with your current understanding and experience and what you've been observing, okay? Even if some parts of this is news to you, that's good, right? Because like I say, you're still going through this process. I'm just letting you know some of the things that's going to be coming up as you come out the other side of it as well, right? So yeah, let it be what it is, but just know that you are ready. You are ready to be this sovereign being now, okay? You're ready to show up as this whole, complete, and unified expression of self, okay? Rather than switching hats, as I said, okay? But guys, thank you so much for spending a bit of your time with me. I hope this does serve you well. Thanks for your kind words as well. You know, thank you for the support. I do appreciate it. I'm glad it makes sense. Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, we go through many rebirths throughout our lifetime, but this one is major. I've been getting that for a little while, that this one is highly significant. Like, this changes everything. So yeah, I can't stress it enough, you know, like, just allow the process to be what it is, you know, and just know that all is well, all is working out in your favor. Even where you see, you know, even where you see maybe some friction, and it's funny how you come up exactly when the Five of Wands comes up, right? Even when you see friction, pushback, resistance, right? That could even be coming from yourself when it comes to this process, and you know, what energies are coming through, how you feel you need to move, the decisions you make, right? If there's any doubt or resistance that comes through, that's normal. You know, it's going to happen. So my advice would be, don't don't give too much credence to that. Just remember that there's always some residual, from this alchemical process, okay? So that's essentially what you may be seeing. So, yeah, Judgment and the High Priestess. So, it's up to you, right? What you choose, okay? The clue is there, but it's up to you to choose. But I feel like, it keeps coming up. Intuitively, you already know, okay? You already know that it's time. So, with that Page of Wands, it does look like you are stepping forward, even if there is a little bit of apprehension, even if it feels like you're out of your depth, okay? That's normal. You've never experienced what you're currently experiencing. So it's normal to feel like you're in uncharted territory, right? That's part of it. So don't worry about it, okay? And look at that Tower with the Empress. Come on now. So this is definitely going to shake things up, right? We saw the Emperor before, now we have the Empress. It's definitely going to shake things up, but in the best possible way, right? Because it's time. It's time for a change, And like I say, with that creatrix energy, right? That's what you're facilitating, right? These are like the birthing pains of a new world, right? A new reality, a new paradigm. Wow, so very powerful, guys. Thank you so much once again. Yeah, appreciate the support. And like I say, don't fear any part of this process, okay? Like whatever comes up is fine, but you don't need to fear it, okay? It is for your highest good, and because you're ready to experience it, okay? So, oh, you're very welcome. Yes, you too, guys. Have an amazing evening and weekend. I hope you have a nice time, regardless of whatever you decide to do. I will be back on Sunday, so I will be going live on Sunday on TikTok, and we'll do our self-care Sunday messages. So yeah, if you can join me over there 7 p.m. on Sunday, it'd be great to see you and have a bit of a catch up and do our self-care messages to see what would be of benefit to you at this time when it comes to that. But until then, take care, and I'll see you later. Bye.